We often give up on ourselves and we often let ourselves down when we're trying to build new habits or when we're trying to break old habits. But we often forget that consistency and our willingness to work on ourselves daily and in the moment is the very thing that holds us accountable between letting go the moment of decision and actually acting in the moment. Because it's never the work and it's never the new habit and it's never not saying no to the bad habit. It's rather the moment of decision. And we're going to talk about how that is glued together with consistency. Because if we do not have consistency, we're not going to have motivation to keep going in the midst of feeling like we're letting ourselves down.
And who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Welcome back to the Winter Arc Podcast. My name is Grant, and today is September the 14th, entry number 11. And I wanted to talk a little bit about consistency and also acting in the very moment when you're tempted to not maybe do something that you're supposed to, or maybe choose to do something that you're not supposed to. And I always say this, the moment of decision is the hardest part. So for instance, it's never the work that's hard. I mean, it's hard to a degree, but the hardest thing is to actually to decide. It's actually to decide to do the very thing that you're having a hard time struggling over. But even if we have continued our habits or our new habits or breaking the old habits and actually having a clean slate when it comes to breaking habits or when it comes to actually building up new habits consistently, we sometimes get stuck in the middle of our motivation and we feel like, is this even paying off? Is this process that I'm taking part of even paying off and even making me better at who I was compared to yesterday or the week before or the year before or whatever? And the thing that I want to say is this. Oftentimes, consistency in the moment doesn't feel like you're producing fruit, if that makes sense. And honestly, you might even feel discouraged in the process when you are being consistent. And honestly, this is the thing. I really think that the truth is that it's easier to actually be consistent in the moment and not see a lot of fruit from it, but then lay down at night and not hating yourself because you were still willing and able to say yes to the very thing you were supposed to do. And I think that there is battles every single day where you have the choice between, so like if you're making a new habit or breaking a bad habit, like you have the choice between saying no and yes to it, right? And it's up to you to decide, are you going to let yourself down and hate yourself tonight? I mean, I think that's a huge motivator, but I don't think that you should constantly think that way about it either, because the other thing to think about is the fact that when you are consistent and when you say yes, that's going to build motivation to always say yes to something harder in the future. So a good example, and this is honestly a dumb example, but I think it actually fits this perfectly, is I'm trying to learn Japanese, okay? And it's a very slow journey, very, very, very slow. And granted, I'm using Duolingo, and I know that you're not supposed to use Duolingo to learn and speak new languages, but I'm just using it for the base learning of just trying to get used to, okay, what am I getting myself into? And I also downloaded a bunch of grade level or kindergarten level, like Japanese apps and games and stuff like that to try to like understand the language better from the perspective of like someone in kindergarten. But I've been in this one section about talking about places, right, in Duolingo. And I feel like I've been on the same section for the past like 2 weeks. I'm not even kidding. And it's not really because I've gotten things wrong. It's because it started to add random reviews because I was going slow. And like right now I have like a 46-day streak on Duolingo. It's great, right? Because I feel like, okay, I'm at least making some type of progress. It may not be something perfect and it may not be something that's actually teaching me how to speak, but it's at least getting me familiar with the language, right? And at least I'm trying to be consistent in the moment with this every single day, even if it's something small. And I know like this isn't the best way to learn Japanese. I know the best way to learn Japanese is immersion, but I haven't been able to do that lately. I was doing that like 2 weeks ago. I was like listening to a lot of Japanese songs. I was listening to a lot of Japanese like movies and stuff like that in Japanese. And so I was immersing myself, but then I got a little busy, so I got sidetracked. But in the meanwhile, I was doing Duolingo to keep up with it and to be consistent, because I feel like that has actually made a difference in the fact of I could have either quit learning Japanese, or I can just scale back a little bit and be like, okay, I'm still going to do it every day, but I'm going to scale back a little bit and just use Duolingo and use something simple to just do some type of daily practice, even if it's not immersion, even if it's not something that's actually, teaching me to speak, but at least I'm still familiarizing myself with the language. That's my reasoning, at least. If you are familiar with Japanese and this is the wrong way, I don't know. But I'm trying. That's the thing that's important. I think this is the thing that's important and the thing that motivates me to continue learning Japanese, at least. But the thing is that even though it felt like I was not making any progress these past 2 weeks in this one section, it just felt like there was so many different reviews Duolingo randomly had me do, and it took literally forever, because there was a bunch of like hiragana reviews of like trying to actually learn letters and actually reading the letters and stuff like that. And if you don't know, hiragana is one of the alphabet forms of the Japanese language. But that's needless to say that even though like for nearly a week and a half or 2 weeks, I was feeling like I was behind, but in the meantime, I stayed consistent. So what happened though today was that because of my consistency, and even though I felt behind, and even though I felt like I needed to speed up, because Duolingo makes you feel like you're behind everyone else because they put you on a leadership board and stuff like that to like make you feel pressured to buy Super Duolingo so you can go ahead, like get ahead of them and stuff like that, so you can like practice more without having to lose as many lives, quote unquote. But the thing is that the thing I learned, at least today, was that my consistency through the past week and a half, 2 weeks, paid off, because as soon as I was able to get through the reviews and as soon as I was able to get through the parts that just were holding me up from actually learning more, I was able to actually almost complete the entire unit just tonight in like 10, 20 minutes because of my consistency. And did I complete the whole unit tonight? Like, did I start from the beginning to the end? No. But I was like near the beginning of the unit and finished it really fast. And that's only because, and the only reason I made progress on it, and the progress of at least continuing to be familiarized with like the Japanese language and the Japanese alphabet in particular, was because I was willing to be consistent even when it felt like, am I even learning? Am I even actually doing something worthwhile? And the thing I can say is hi. Hi is yes in Japanese. And I think that I learned something from this. And I think I learned that at the end of the day, the consistency and the decision in the moment to say yes to a discipline and say yes in the moment when it feels like it's not bearing fruit in the moment will bear fruit later on in more ways than none. But I think in the midst of our obedience to the moment, which is choosing the moment of decision, I think that our consistency can actually become a motivation. So, for instance, I wouldn't have been able to almost do an entire unit today if I didn't use the consistency as a motivation to eventually realize, you know what? The times that I felt like it was pointless to learn these letters with reviews and to practice all this other extra stuff that I didn't need to, it mattered because it got me further ahead than I could have ever imagined in just 10, 15 minutes. So it's just the fact that if you're struggling with motivation, use the moment of decision wisely and say yes. Because guess what? You may not want to do XYZ, like maybe you're a student in college or maybe you're working on a project. You may be procrastinating on it and you may be like feeling like, oh, I don't really want to do this at all. I'm just going to push it off to the last minute. The truth is that the moment of decision is the hardest part, because the work itself is not hard. Because oftentimes I find myself, like, for instance, like feeling like, oh, I don't want to vacuum. I don't want to clean my house. I don't want to do XYZ, right? But then I've found is that once I make the moment, the decision, the moment of decision, the most important thing in that moment, I end up doing it because I'm willing to look at the past and be like, okay, because I was consistent, I felt a boost of motivation and I didn't go to bed hating myself because I didn't take advantage of the moment of decision. And so I think that's what I'm going to encourage you all with, is the fact that if you want motivation, if you want continual motivation to be disciplined, even if you don't feel like there's fruit in it, then you're going to have to use the moment of decision every single day as a way to build that consistency, if that makes sense. So I hope this kind of gave you perspective on just motivation and just consistency in particular, because consistency isn't, oh, I see wins every day. Consistency is I show up every day, but the days that feel like nothing happens and the days that feel like this is so unfruitful are the days that build into a very fruitful day. And so, as I said, even though the Duolingo example is kind of silly and kind of mediocre, I think that this can actually be applied to almost everything. So I hope you guys have a great night. And I hope you guys have a great day tomorrow. And we'll be almost halfway through the month. It's kind of crazy tomorrow. I might come out with a video podcast finally for the productivity versus toxic productivity video. But I will keep you guys updated and posted, and I hope to also start making social media vids for this because no one knows this podcast exists, and I've been making podcasts every day since the beginning of September, and it's been great. It's actually been freeing because it literally feels like I'm making a journal for myself of the progress I'm making of just like productivity and motivation and just my life in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this entry, and I will see you, or you will rather hear me tomorrow.